Between yesterday and today, I really should have seen the signs of what this specific time of year was, because 3 years ago I was at a much different place. And I believe it's time I take an opportunity to reflect on that. Don't worry, I'm still going to do July 2026, a month in retrospective tomorrow. But it was on this day 3 years ago that everything changed. First things first, good morning and happy Thursday, everybody. Let's see. Well, my low is that it rained a lot, and in fact, it's still raining right now. I'll be honest, on Tuesday, I wore this outfit, and I was really hot. So yesterday, I wore yesterday's outfit, the pink shirt, because, we wore pink on Wednesdays, and shorts. I was freezing. So I have no idea man. I'm just going to wear this and hope for the best. Plus, to be fair, tonight I plan on seeing Spider-Man Brand New Day. And it might be pretty cool in the movie theater. So, that's my reasoning. So, let's see, that was my low. My high was, what was my high? My high is I got to catch up on a couple things, and there was something I got to try. And I have to say that it worked. Of course, now there's something I gotta try again and see if that works as well. And my act of kindness was I brought the garbage in for my mom and dad. I emptied the dehumidifier for my dad. I did a couple acts of kindness. So, 3 years. 3 years. I guess there's nowhere to start but at the beginning. It's a story I have told before, but if any of you guys out there are new and haven't heard before, I would say for my entire life, there was something that, whether I knew it deep down or not, I thought my life was going to take a direction that I just knew was going to be right for me. And that includes, this one girl that I liked. And we knew each other. In fact, we had known each other for a long time. But it wasn't until I actually moved here to Elmira that I got to reconnect with her a little bit. And things were actually going great until the pandemic started. And I thought about her every day during the pandemic. And when it seemed like it was, because you have to remember, my brother had just become a father. I had just become an uncle. And with how dangerous COVID was in the beginning, as well as the fact that there were some people who were pretty paranoid about a lot of it, I couldn't risk going outside seeing anyone, much less, this girl. But, you know what? I stayed in. I stayed in during COVID to prevent myself from getting COVID. just so, my brother would let me see my nephews again. And what's funny is my brother's gotten COVID more than I have. So, go figure. So, around August of 2021, when it finally felt like, okay, the world was at a fairly better place than when it was, almost a year and a half ago prior, I thought I was finally ready to see this girl and tell her how I felt. But that didn't happen. She started seeing this one guy. And, at that time I didn't really think much of it. And then came January of 2022, where this girl got engaged. And what followed for, I'd say, the next 9 months after that was just a period of time where I literally just let my emotions dictate how I was feeling. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't making good choices. And I let it get to me. In fact, were it not for the 2 weddings I went to that year, and that's not to say that 2022 was all bad. There were some good moments that happened. My nephews got baptized. That was really good. And there was stuff like, going to the lake to look forward to. But even during those times, it wasn't until September of that year when I started feeling better. Again, that first wedding I went to in September, and then later in November of that same year when my cousin got married in Texas. That's when things started. That's when emotionally I started feeling better. Because my entire life up to that point, anytime I ever went to a wedding, I would see the couple up there and be like, oh, that isn't going to be me. But it wasn't until that first wedding in September of 2022 where I thought, no, it's not me, but someday it will be. And it was those first 2 weddings where I cried. It was from that moment on, I made a rule for myself where if I'm at a wedding and if I cry during, the ceremony, the union, if you will, then the wedding is good. So, yeah. In fact, I actually cried at my cousin's wedding last September, almost a year ago. And to this day, I can still feel the tear rolling down my face at that wedding. It was great. And yeah, not to mention the great thing about my birthday being December 28th is it's the last major thing of the year for me before, the year is over. And I had a really great birthday. So yeah, the 2 weddings and my birthday, that was what carried me through. Seriously, without those things happening, 2022 probably would have been the worst year ever. Of course, little would I know that 2022 is just the beginning. Remember, I felt bad that entire year because that one girl I always thought I'd be with, got engaged. I still had to get through with her being married, or getting married. And it wasn't until near the end of July of 2023, I literally did all I could to try and mentally prepare for what was about to happen. And I tell you what, that last Saturday of July of that year, I was inconsolable. I was completely inconsolable. Like, and you know what? It's kind of fitting it's raining outside right now because, seriously, there wasn't a more perfect metaphor for how I was feeling than the fact that it rained all day that day. And it did rain all day that day. Except for, thankfully I was able to do my video up at the lake. And I'll never forget, I'm doing this video and I'm sharing my feelings about like what specifically is going on with me in terms of how I was feeling. And the cool thing was at the very end, like you could actually see like the sun parting through the clouds. And you think, hey, maybe it's going to be a good day. And then shortly after, it just rains all day. Holy cow. From that moment on, though, I really thought that I was going to be... Well, I didn't think I would ever know what happiness would be ever again. I really wouldn't. You know, I was resigned to living in the gray. You know, whatever joy I would have felt with what my life would have been with this person, you know, that's gone. And I'm never going to get it again. I'll never know what joy is ever again. You know what? Fine. Okay. You know, I'll be present. I'll be in the moment. You know, I'll be able to witness stuff like my nephews growing up and, you know, birthdays and holidays and stuff like that. And I'll be there and, you know, I'll be content. Content is good. But truly being happy, I didn't think I'd ever see again. And then it was on this day 3 years ago that everything changed. For reference, my family from Ohio was coming to visit. Actually, they just visited the other day. It was really nice to see them again. They were visiting, and there was a big party going on. I made guacamole for the party. And all of a sudden, I get a message from a friend of mine saying, asking me if I could attend her son's birthday. Because they happened to be up at Cuke Lake. You know, I was already up at Cuke Lake, so you know what? Why not? So, you know, I grabbed one of my jars of pickles. My mom suggested I bring a bottle of champagne. Because, I mean, come on, they invited me. I had to give something, you know, to say thank you for inviting me, of course. And from that day on, well, it's where I am now. I got to meet this family and everything changed. You know, I could smile again. I became happy again. And I do not know where I would be without these people. You guys, if any of you guys are watching this, you know who you are. Sometimes, I guess, you do kind of go through hell in order to get to heaven. And I would say that, I guess maybe this qualifies. And sometimes I do kind of think about what my life would have been if I actually got to tell this girl how I feel and, you know, where my life would be if I was with her. Sure. And I do feel a little bit of regret when I do. But I'm definitely in a far better place emotionally than when I was. And, from the time I met that family, there was a whole bunch of other people I met too. That, again, I don't know where I'd be without them. You guys know who you are. Again, I know I never name names on camera, so bear with me. But if you know you've been a positive influence on my life, and trust me, then you know who you are. And I guess there actually is kind of a funny story about everything that happened in the past in regards to, this girl marrying someone else. It was just this past the 4th of July when I was at the Claudia Hoyser concert at the Switz. Shout out to Claudia Hoyser, she killed it. Where I mentioned how I met some new friends, very nice people, and one person who was there, technically amongst that group of friends, but they were standing someone else, was that girl I liked mother-in-law. Yeah, that girl's mother-in-law was there. Which, at first I'm like, crap. I'm really going to feel this too, on today of all days. But when I saw her, I'm like, oh my God, the dude that married this girl, the girl looks like her mother-in-law, which means the dude married his mom. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, I still feel kind of bad a little bit, but definitely less so now. And you know what? I relegate it to the fact that, you know what, if it's not meant to be, it's fine. That just leaves room for someone else. I mean, there's not someone else right now, but there might be. And you know what? That's more than enough reason for me to get up every day and get in the game. So, don't misunderstand me. Heartbreak sucks. It absolutely does. And if any of you guys are experiencing anything like that, please talk to someone about that. Please do. You need to be able to confide in others for that sort of issue. But me personally, 3 years ago, I never would have imagined I'd make it here. And you know what? I can't imagine where I'd be without the many people I've met in my life. You guys know who you are. Whether they're here in this area or, sadly, if any of them have gone to the state of South Carolina. Yeah, I'm still shook by the fact that my friends moved, I'm not going to lie. That's okay. You know what, the fact that I'm sad that my friends that moved to South Carolina moved away, and the fact that I'm sad about that means, it means that it's absolutely true that they were meant to be part of my life. And they still are part of my life, whether they're here or not. So, yeah. Maybe a bit of a... Considering how much rain we've had in the last couple of days, and considering the time of year, I thought I'd tell a bit of an uplifting story. Hope you liked this video. And if you did, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm very homely. This video for all you guys watching everything. It'll be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Remember, if you guys want to talk to us, we're here to lend you his back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.